Well, good morning, guys. Glad to have you back with us. This is Brian, Cliffside Outfitter. We're going to continue our Hydrosport restoration project today, and mainly working on the stringers. When I put the stringers in, I just put them in with the top edges square. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is go in and grind a radius on the top so that the glass will lay over it properly. We just finished up with the transom build, and we're not entirely finished back there, but we're going to let that set a little bit, get these stringers taken care of. Now I've got the two outside stringers in. I've yet to pull the center stringer, and we may pull that later on today in another video, but we're going to pull that center stringer and get it replaced. But before we do that, we've got the stringers, the two outside stringers, we got them bedded in, and we got the peanut butter fillet mostly complete on the stringers. We've got some gaps and stuff, and we'll take care of that in a little bit. But we're going to get the two outside stringers just exactly where they need to be. And that'll give us the support to where I feel comfortable pulling the center stringer, and then we get it replaced, and we're making some progress. So let's get started on the stringer. I've got a couple options that we can use to work on these stringers. The first option is a router with maybe a 1/4 inch roundover bit. These are 3/4 inch stringers. They're not real big, so a 1/4 inch roundover would make a nice transition. However, I don't have a 1/4 inch roundover bit, and what I used in the back that worked pretty good, it's not going to be quite as fast, but is this little old DeWalt random orbit sander, and I've got a vacuum attachment on it where that I can collect some of the dust. With the router, it's just going to go everywhere. So if I can use this sander and get the job done, then it's going to be a little less dusty. Okay, so that worked pretty good. It's fast enough, and it puts a nice smooth radius. Now you're going to control the radius and how much sanding you do. You're going to have to do that by eye. Like I said, if you don't trust yourself, you always use a router and do the same thing. So I'm going to finish up sanding the stringer out, and then we'll come right back and we'll start laying some glass. Alright, so as I was sanding the stringers down and we're getting ready to lay up the glass on the stringers, I thought about something that I may not have covered in a previous video. Like I told you earlier, the stringers I placed in raw. I didn't glass them beforehand because I wanted to have the flexibility. If I made a mistake and I got my stringer height off, then I could go back and make some adjustments. So we started sanding these and getting them smooth, and I wanted to go back and show you what I've done to adjust to make sure that my height was correct on the stringers. So let me spin you around and we'll take a little look at what we got going on. So if you look right here, I've got a piece of straight edge laying across the stringers and to the side of the boat. On this particular boat, if you'll look, there's some remnants right here of where the old floor used to be, and of course this is the glass that was on top of the floor that's got to be ground down at some point, but that tells me where the top of the floor was. And this particular boat had a 1/2 inch floor, and they'd only glassed it on one side. Didn't see a whole lot of deterioration. There was some in places, and then there was places that was almost pristine. With that being said, we're putting in a Coosa floor. We're going back with a 1/2 inch, but we're going to glass both sides. and that's going to give it more rigidity. I'm going to have a nice firm floor, because I don't know, like I told you before, it's still a debate as to where I'm going to put foam back in this boat. So I'm probably going to install a few extra bulkheads, and then we're going to, glass both sides so that we have some more strength. So what I did, I laid this out, and I've got these jars on here. This straight edge that I've cut to where I can strategically place it up the boat. And if I cut it too long, then it wouldn't go all the way to the front. So I had to cut it to the front. So I've got some 5/8 inch plywood blocks. They're positioned on the edge of the boat where the floor goes. I've got a straight edge run in between them. And then I've got to have accommodations for the floor in between that straight edge and the stringer. And I'm going to move that periodically up the boat to make sure that I have that. My stringer is going to be 1/2 inch, or my floor is going to be 1/2 inch. It's going to have 2 layers of glass on it. That's 1/8 of an inch. And then my stringer is going to have glass on them. That's at least 1/8 of an inch. So we want to be able to comfortably fit 5/8 in there, because when I set the floor down, not only am I going to screw it down, but I'm going to put some peanut butter. We're going to seal this. If these pockets that's in the boat between the bulkheads, if I don't have foam in there, they're going to be airtight and watertight, where I still have buoyancy. Unless the boat gets ripped in half, and then that's a whole different story. But so I want to maintain my buoyancy by sealing these off. They'll never see the light of day. They'll be sealed. I'll glass the inside of them, and they'll be sealed up to where they'll never take on any water. So let me show you what I got here. So there again, we've got our straight edge. Those blocks represent where the floor is going to be on this particular boat, and you can see that I've got some room. That 5/8 represents the floor, and then I've got some glass for the stringer, and then I've got room to put a little peanut butter in there. It's going to be tight. It's going to be squished down to where the peanut butter really is not going to do anything but seal. But I've got enough room under that stringer for the glass on the stringer, and that'll push that up, and we'll have a real good fit. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm going to I'm going to check that periodically up through here, and we'll get back to sanding. All right, guys. So I got everything rounded out, got it nice, and got the top edge of the stringers rolled really nice. And let me show you what we got. You can see we've got them rolled, got them sanded, and I think that's going to be as good as we can get them. So I'm going to wipe everything down, and we'll get to glassing. So we're going to cut some glass. A little bit jagged here on the edge where I've been hacking some pieces out, so we're going to get that trimmed nice and straight. I measured out some sections that I want for the tabbing, and the way that I'm going to do this particular tabbing, the grain of this, the fabric, it's in an X, and then you've got stitching that runs with the length of the roll. I don't know that it makes any difference because of the X pattern in this fabric, whether you run cut it this way or cut it that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the first layer of tabbing, and then the first cap. I'm going to do everything one time, cutting the fabric this way, and then the next round I'll take and cut it the opposite way, and that way if one's better than the other, we'll have the best of both worlds. The stitching in this is going to hold it down to the hull of the boat. Cutting it this way is going to give me linear strength So we're going to do it both ways. I don't know that it makes any difference whatsoever, but let's get some of it cut. And I've just got a big set of shears. Works pretty good. If I done this all the time, I would I'd probably seek a different method, because this will just wear you out after a while. Yeah, alright, well that'll give us enough to get started. Alright, so we got our cloth cut, and what I like to do, this has been working well for me, and I've seen some guys on YouTube doing this, but I make a place here. I've got a piece of plywood with some plastic on top, and it gives me a place to where I can start getting this cloth wetted out a little bit prior to placing it on the boat. Okay, so I've got my resin mixed up here, and what I find to be the easiest, let me grab a brush. These little chip brushes are cheap. A roller would be good for this, but about a roller, if I was doing, say I had time to just do the whole boat, one big bang, right? I'd keep a roller going and I do a lot of glassing, but the small batches that I'm doing, because I don't have limited time, I just have to work when I can get into my schedule. You know, it's easier for me just to throw these chip brushes away than it is to throw the rollers away. So that's, and the brush, I mean, it works pretty good. So just pour you some down on here. And then just sort of spread it out. And you're going to be surprised at how much it takes to, I know I was, to even begin to get the glass wet. Smokey, what are you doing? Crazy dog. I think a dog wants to get out. Let me let him out right quick. But yeah, you just dump it on here and sort of push it around. Don't be too rough with it. This side's the chop strand mat that's on this 1708, and if you're real rough with it, you'll start moving the fabric around. So I try to be gentle. I've got this doubled up, so we can pull it apart. You can see that it's starting to saturate a little bit, but we get some more resin on there. Hold on just a minute, buddy. Let me let this dog out and we'll continue. The fibers start coming up. All right. Well, I think that's looked pretty good. Put this over here. I'm going to turn the camera around, and we're going to get in here and see if this fat man can get the tabbing in on the inside of this stringer. Well, to show you this, but we're going to pipe a little of that along there. We'll take our spoon and smooth it out like that. Come in here, pipe some more. We had some squeeze out when we done the when we bedded the stringer. We had some squeeze out, and that's good. There's a little pocket right there. I'm gonna make sure I get that filled in. So we had squeeze out when we bedded the stringer. We didn't have enough squeeze out to make the transition, so we're gonna lay some peanut butter up against this stringer, and that way that glass will roll a lot easier. This is sopping wet. It's not the easiest thing to do. I'm gonna go across this with some overlap and start trying to unfold this. I want 1708. I want the chop strand toward the hull, and I want the woven fabric out toward me. Just position it, and I like to use my hands because it seems to work better for me. Resin from the bottom up, it comes out up here at the top, and then I think the excess runs back down and re-wets the cloth, which seems to work for me. They may be a better way to do it, but it seems to me that you just keep on keeping on till you get what you want. So get back and look at these air pockets, and some of the glass, some of the resin, it's almost like it's foamy, and you'll push it out the top, and then the bubbles will dissipate, and then the liquid will run back down into the glass. Come back to that area. I'll pull this apart, let that overlap. We'll lay it right down the middle. Get it lined up where I got about the same amount on both sides. It's about like that. That glass, that radius that we made in there, saves the day, really. Makes that glass, it'll roll that edge easier. So be a nightmare if we didn't have it, to be honest with you. Basically I've tabbed both sides, and then I've brought one over the top, and they overlap a substantial amount. About 2 inches is what kind of overlap that I'm getting. We're going to come back in here once this sort of starts to kick, and we're going to tab it again on the bottom side, and then we're going to overlap again. So I'll have 2 layers of 1708 on the top. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tab it again, and each tab will be just a little bit bigger, just to pin this down to the hull where it ain't never going to go anywhere. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me, so I'm going to cut it short, and I'll see y'all next time. This is Brian with Cliffside Outfitters. Y'all have a good day.